Hello, wonderful English learners, and welcome back to the Learn English with Maria podcast. I'm Sophie Turner.
And I'm Daniel. We are so excited to dive into today's conversation, which builds perfectly on our last episode about stopping time wasting. Today, we're tackling something equally crucial: how to be consistent in speaking English.
Oh, Daniel, this is such a vital topic. Many of our listeners understand the importance of speaking, and they might even start strong. But keeping that momentum going day after day, week after week, can feel like the biggest challenge.
Absolutely, Sophie. It's easy to be enthusiastic for a few days or even a couple of weeks, but then life gets busy, motivation dips, and suddenly that consistent speaking practice falls by the wayside. And then it feels like you're starting all over again.
That cycle of starting and stopping, it's disheartening. So today, we want to explore practical strategies and mindset shifts that will help you build and maintain genuine consistency in your English speaking practice. We're talking about making it a natural, unbreakable part of your routine.
We're not just going to tell you to speak more, because you already know that. We're going to talk about how to make that speaking more happen regularly, even on days when you feel tired, busy, or just not motivated.
Yes, the real world challenges. So, Daniel, let's kick this off. In your experience, what's one of the biggest reasons people struggle with consistency and speaking English?
I think a huge reason is setting unrealistic expectations for themselves. They might aim to have an hour-long conversation every single day or practice with a tutor 5 times a week. While those goals are admirable, if they're not sustainable with your current lifestyle, they quickly lead to burnout and then, inevitably, inconsistency.
Oh, that's such a good point. They set themselves up for failure almost by creating a goal that's too big to maintain when life throws a curveball. And then when they miss one day, it feels like they've failed completely, and it's easier to just give up.
Precisely. It's that all or nothing mentality. If I can't do an hour, I won't do anything. And that's where the inconsistency really sets in.
So how can our listeners immediately apply this insight to become more consistent? What's a practical, actionable tip they can implement today?
Here's what I suggest. Instead of aiming for an ambitious, long daily session, set a minimum viable practice goal. This is the absolute smallest amount of speaking you can commit to daily, even on your busiest day. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 1 sentence.
2 minutes? 1 sentence? That sounds so manageable.
Exactly. The goal isn't the quantity of practice on that particular day, it's the streak. It's about showing up. Even if it's just 1 minute, you've maintained your consistency streak. And what often happens is once you start that 1 minute, you might find yourself doing 5 or 10 or even more. But the pressure is off because you only had to do 1.
I love that idea, Daniel. It's about building the habit, not just the intense burst. And that tiny commitment feels so much less intimidating. What about another common barrier to consistency?
Another big one is waiting for the perfect situation to speak. I'll speak English when I meet a native speaker. I'll practice when I have a quiet room. I'll practice when I feel totally confident. These perfect situations rarely materialize, and so speaking practice never happens.
And it leads to a lot of missed opportunities, doesn't it? English speaking then becomes this rare, special event instead of an everyday activity.
Exactly. So for waiting for the perfect situation, what's your immediate actionable tip, Sophie? Something they can do today?
Okay, here's a challenge that ties into our last episode. Embrace everyday micro speaking. This means actively looking for tiny, spontaneous moments to speak English, even if it's just to yourself. Narrate your actions while you're making tea. Describe what you see out the window. Practice asking questions you might use later that day.
So it's about making your environment your practice partner. You don't need another person or a specific time or a special place.
Precisely. If you're washing dishes, just describe the process in English. I'm washing the plate. It's a clean plate now. If you're walking, describe the buildings. That's a tall building. It has many windows. It sounds simple, but it consistently activates your English brain.
That's fantastic. It integrates speaking into the fabric of your day. So, we've talked about unrealistic expectations and waiting for the perfect situation. Both contribute to inconsistency. What about motivation? Sometimes people just lose the drive, even if they know what to do.
That's a huge one, Daniel. Motivation naturally fluctuates. You won't always feel excited to speak English, and that's normal. One big consistency killer related to motivation is relying solely on willpower. Willpower is a limited resource. It gets depleted.
So, if your consistency plan relies on you always feeling super motivated, it's bound to fail on those low energy days.
Exactly. So instead of relying on willpower, we need to build systems and habits that make speaking English almost automatic, regardless of how you feel.
Ooh, systems and habits. How can our listeners immediately create a system or habit for consistency in speaking English?
My immediate tip is to use habit stacking. This means you link your English speaking practice to something you already do consistently every day. For example, after you brush your teeth in the morning, speak one English sentence. While your coffee is brewing, describe your plans for the day in English. Before you check social media, speak for 2 minutes in English about your day yesterday.
That's brilliant. You're leveraging an existing habit to trigger a new one. It makes the new habit feel less like an effort and more like a natural extension of something you already do.
Precisely. It removes the decision making. You don't have to decide to speak English. It just happens as part of your routine. And when you do it for a few weeks, it becomes ingrained.
So, to recap so far, small, minimum viable goals, embracing everyday micro-speaking, and using habit stacking to create systems rather than relying solely on willpower. These are powerful tools for consistency.
They truly are, and they're all actionable today. You don't need a special app or a tutor right now or a new textbook. You can start implementing these immediately.
What about the fear of sounding repetitive? Sometimes learners feel like they only know a few phrases, so they say the same things over and over, and that makes them hesitant to speak consistently. They feel like they're not progressing.
That's a valid feeling, Daniel, but it often stems from an incorrect understanding of practice. Repetition is not a waste. It's how we build fluency and automaticity. Think of a musician practicing scales. They repeat the same notes over and over, not because they're being repetitive, but because they're building muscle memory and fluidity.
So saying the same simple sentences repeatedly, especially early on, is actually a good thing for consistency. It's consolidating knowledge.
Exactly. So for those feeling repetitive, my immediate tip is to embrace deliberate repetition with slight variations. If you find yourself saying, "I am good" often, that's okay. But then try to add one small variation. "I am pretty good." "I am feeling good." "I am good, thanks." This is how you expand your range naturally without feeling pressure to invent entirely new sentences every time.
That's a wonderful way to think about it. It's not about avoiding repetition entirely, but about using repetition as a stepping stone to expand. And it keeps the consistency going because it doesn't demand too much mental effort.
Precisely. And it helps you experiment with different intonations and stresses, making your familiar phrases sound more natural and expressive.
This brings up another point, Sophie. Many learners get discouraged because they're not seeing immediate dramatic improvements. They might be consistent for a week, but they don't feel fluent yet.
That's a common consistency killer, expecting linear progress and instant gratification. Language learning is not a straight line up. It's often a series of plateaus and sudden jumps. You might practice consistently for a while and feel like nothing's happening, and then suddenly something clicks.
So, how do we help our listeners deal with those periods of slow perceived progress so they don't give up on consistency?
The immediate tip here is to track your micro wins and celebrate small progress. Instead of only looking for fluency, acknowledge every tiny achievement. Did you speak one new sentence today? Did you correctly use a new word? Did you manage to describe your breakfast in English, even if it was simple?
So, keeping a quick, informal journal or just a mental note of those small victories.
Exactly. This shifts your focus from the huge, distant goal of fluency to the immediate, tangible progress you're making every single day. And that positive reinforcement fuels consistency.
That's so important for long-term motivation. It's easy to get lost in the big picture and forget that every small step is moving you forward.
And it helps you appreciate the journey too, because learning a language is a continuous process, not just a destination.
So, we've covered quite a few strategies to build consistency: setting minimum viable goals, embracing everyday micro-speaking, using habit stacking, embracing deliberate repetition with variations, and tracking micro-wins. These are all immediate, actionable steps.
And they are designed to fit into your life, not demand that you drastically change your life to fit English learning. That's the secret to real consistency.
Sophie, this has been an incredibly insightful conversation. I think our listeners have a powerful set of tools now to truly embed English speaking into their daily lives.
I agree, Vaniel. Consistency is the magic ingredient in language learning, and it's much more achievable when you break it down into these manageable, practical steps.
So for everyone out there listening, pick just one or two of these strategies and try them out today. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for a new textbook. Start now. That's the key to becoming consistent.
Absolutely. The small, consistent actions will compound into incredible progress over time. Keep showing up, even for just a minute. It makes all the difference.
We'll be back next time with more tips and strategies to help you on your English learning journey. Until then, keep practicing, keep learning, and keep speaking.